I'm going to try to document this process a little bit on the lifters and lifter bodies. I've got jars for each one of the 4 on my right side here, and I'll show the process of putting these lifters back together. First, I let these soak overnight in mineral spirits, and I use this magnet to get them out of here without getting my hands all completely screwed up. And I'll spray these down with carb cleaner to get all the junk, carbon and whatever out. You can see that spraying out of there. This lifter, it's supposed to rattle. There's that ball that needs to rattle, which you probably can't hear it, but it does rattle. The lifter back together, one of the tests to make sure things are working right is to put the plunger in, and you see it springs back, the ball's intact, upside down, goes right in. So that tells you the ball's working as it's supposed to work. Also, the clearance is right as well, but to put these together, you push and twist. It's supposed to click. There it is. Now I put the lifter back in the lifter body. There we are. A little dab of oil on the base of that lifter body where it contacts the cam. Now I'll insert the lifter body back into the engine. There it is. Rod tubes are banged up a little bit, but you see that front silicone seal. As you can tell, I took the corner off of that to get it to go in there a little easier. It still presses in really nice and snug, but without that it was really difficult. It would roll back over that bead. A little bit of oil on those silicone seals, and up here, these are rubber. I'm going to put Dow Corning number 4 on those to protect them and give a little lubrication. Holding the camera, but you can see in here the seals are in place, the silicone, and out here they're almost flush. I'm going to do something about that in a minute. Okay, now that I've got the lifters and lifter bodies in place, the tubes are installed and pressed in by hand. Now I'm going to need to go back and persuade these to be completely flush with here, and I'll show you that in a second. And I'll put it on another segment. Okay, here's my homemade tool using a 1/2-inch bar stock of aluminum, 1/2-inch threaded rod, a couple of 1/2-inch nuts and washers, and some tape to protect the tube. Okay, now the tool's in place. You can see the washer sitting right on top, and it just fits inside the opening for those tubes, and it rests on the flange, and it's clamped in, and I've got 2 nuts there. What you have to do is go in here and just back out that nut, and it presses that right in place. Okay, now you can see that I've turned that, expanded enough, and press that in just enough to get it underneath the surface of the head. Okay, now you can see those tubes are not proud of the surface. The heads are flat. Everything's ready here to put the connecting plate on. I've got the gaskets on the connecting plate. I used aircraft grade non-hardening gasket sealant between the plate and the gaskets. Starting from the inside, work my way out, make sure I get the plate all the way snug against the heads. Connecting plate is installed. You can see why it's important that those tubes not be proud of that surface. It makes sense. Everything's snugged up. I went around and incrementally tightened all these to get them up against snug against. You can kind of see how they're nice and snug. Now I'm going to install the push rods for cylinder number 4 inside the tubes. They're all the same, appear to be the same, but I tried to make sure I remembered which one came out of which cylinder. When you put them in, it's also important that they seat inside the cup of the lifter and not on the edge. So they'll kind of, there they go, you can feel it seat in. And they're seated in. can see how they sit. Slot there where the oil can come through and lubricate the journals for those bearings. I'm going to start to get these in place, but then I'm going to have to rotate the engine so that I get that cam lobe off that cylinder, which I'm going to go ahead and do that now and come back. So that's done. Now I'll just install these nuts for the rocker arms by hand. I'm gonna go back and check them all one more time, but then we're getting almost there. All right, it's getting close. Just gotta clean up the spark plugs, connect this primer line, reinstall the plugs, and it's ready to see if she'll start.